everybody. Welcome. You're watching us here on the Experience and the Comic Book Shopping Network. This is Minute to Skim It. It's a spoiler-free review show. I'm so thankful for you guys that show up every week. I hope it's super helpful to you. Behind the scenes today is Jay. Show him some love. Give him some hearts. What else? There are some really cool books this week. Just be aware that your local comic shop probably got in a bunch of replacement copies for some absolutes and some other titles because of some perceived damages that I didn't really think that were that big of a deal. But just know that that's happening, and some other big releases for graphic novels that you guys have been waiting for a long time and are going to be super excited to be able to get if you missed some of those early issues. If you know anybody that you think would enjoy this awesome review show or my goofball face, do some sharing and liking. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss a single show. And I'll be back in just 1 second. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Unknown says that just finished Ghostbusters 2 in the perfect time to be able to show up for the show. Perfect. I love Ghostbusters 2. The music makes me really happy. Actually, that movie came out when I was still working at Hardee's. I made, this is back in the days before you could make instant made t-shirts. I like hand painted t-shirts for the staff. And it was back in the days when, maybe you guys remember this, so like when they would make like the sundaes, we had actually green slime that was like green apple or something that we put on them. It was really, really good. This is back when I was still eating sugar, of course, but it was yummy, yummy. I can't remember what I'm sure that the Happy Meals had Ghostbusters like prizes in them, but I cannot remember what they were. If anyone remembers, let me know. All right, this is a really fun release week. Some cool indie number ones, including some from good friends of mine. So I'm definitely going to be hyping those bad boys up. And yeah, some good Marvel and great DC, including, there really is a title this week that really surprised me how much I liked it because it's not normally my kind of jam. So hopefully this review is helpful to you guys too. Let's see. What are we going to see today? What's first? I forget we're going backwards. Yes, of course. Backwards. It's so funny because what you guys don't know is that when I type in all my titles, the last one I type in is the first one that gets put up first by Jay, which is perfect, but it's also the most recent one I read. So when I get to the end of my reviews, it's because it was the first book I read that I'm like, trying to remember everything. All right, this is our first Power Rangers in quite a long time. This one is kind of interesting because I don't know that in the regular series that had been going on that something happened to Rita Repulsa, but it doesn't matter because she's not in this. It's Rita something else. There's some other last name. They don't explain it. They do acknowledge it in the book. The Power Rangers say stuff. In this one, it looks like Billy's kind of the team lead to gather everybody back together. And you have this is the one that's missing the big one. The Green Ranger's not part of the mix to start. So whatever Rita, the new Rita, is up to gets kind of like thrown at the Rangers. So they have to come together just like it's fairly standard in the way that which they like, okay, well, we're going to come together. There's no putties or anything. And then, of course, there has to be some kind of mega something, which you'll be very happy about which form of Megazord they decide on. And then you do find in this book where the Green Ranger is. It's very interesting. It's a good beginning to jump into, even if you don't know anything about the Power Rangers, because it doesn't ask you to pre-know a bunch of stuff. And the Rangers that they start out here with aren't the extra people. These are like the old school Power Rangers. You know them. One of them shows up with a little one. So where did that little one come from? Inquiring minds want to know, of course. So anyway, fun fact, back in the 90s, I used to wake up in the morning, and as I was getting dressed for work, I used to always watch Power Rangers, which of course meant that I yelled at Rita Repulsa every single time, like, why waste your time on putties? The putties are never any good. Every single time you put putties out first. Does she make putties and throw them out there just as a way to like delay them and wear them down in hopes that whatever monster she throws up next, which are also ridiculous, might have a chance? I don't know. It just seems like she should learn that step 1 and step 2 are never going to work. You're always going to have to go to step 3. You know where they're going to have a Zord of some sort and a super creature. Do you guys have any favorite super creatures? Whatever those big Zordy creatures are that the bad guys put together. Any favorites for you guys? I sure hope so. Oh, and there's a new, I think Billy makes a new form of, you remember Alpha? There's another kind of Alpha character. So if you know your Power Rangers, great. If you don't know your Power Rangers, fine. You will enjoy it. Okay. I'm going to fully admit that I don't think I finished the first series of X-Men 97 enough to know how everything resolved for that one. So I will tell you, I'm coming into this book with completely lost. But it doesn't matter, because the cool thing about X-Men 97 is it does lean in heavily to all of those favorite books that you used to love from the 90s. They were Chris Claremont books in which you do have time traveling people like Forge and Bishop, who are the main characters in this book series. This presupposes that, so it says that they start out 6 months after E-Day, which is some kind of big catastrophe with an asteroid that comes and like destroys a bunch of our superheroes. And it does have like that classic, it has all of the pictures of the X-Men in a grid pattern, and it's some of them like missing, killed, presumed dead, off-world, all that stuff in front of them. It's a very classic cover. That's the way that it sets up. So I will tell you, in that opening image on that page, there is a character that's going to be very, very important at the very end of the book, because they're going to show up to scrap. So a little bit of time travel interestingness here, by way of getting, all our characters kind of together, and to try to figure out where everybody's gone, because it looks like they kind of got spread to the, ends of the earth, ends of the timeline, because of what happened with the asteroid. So it's very cool. I like it very much. All right, this next one, man. I didn't know what to feel. You guys know my true not love for Scott Summers. So when you have a book that's like full on focused on him and a timeline in which he's going to be the main instigator of everything, you have this awesome what if. What's so cool about the what if, other than what I'm going to talk about that kind of like happens in it, is that the end of the what if has implications that say that this is just the beginning of the, if this happens then, of this storyline. So I'm hoping that we get a second follow-up story to this to address what happens past this. So this says, what if Cyclops stayed with Madeline Pryor? So the setup is that back in the day, there was a storyline in which Madeline Pryor shows up, who just happens to be a clone of his wife, Jean Grey. But Jean's gone during this time, And he falls in love with Madeline. And a matter of fact, in this storyline, he has a baby with her. And that's where Cable comes from. So that is the big difference in it. And really and truly, he stays with her. But Cable, which is the son that comes out of this thing, which usually in the real storyline gets sent off into the future, I think, or the future, gets picked up by Apocalypse and raised by Apocalypse, and everything gets all kinds of weird. And you think that you want to definitely try to stop that from happening, but there are worse things that can happen. Those ideas of like, yes, something terrible happened, but something worse could have happened unless this trajectory changed. So this is really awesome. The whole storyline of it. And the message of it is, but for the love of a man for his son, all of this could have been prevented. So it all seems very positive, the steps and decisions that are made, but it really does say that, like, and it does put Scott in a positive light, but because of what he does, bad. And the other thing that I don't understand is like there's 2 pages in this book in which the White Queen shows up, steps out of her whatever she's flying around, and says, "Hey, blah blah blah." I don't know if they're trying to infer that they had it, because we know they did at some point. I don't know what they're trying to say with that one panel, because they don't ever readdress her. I know they're trying to get me on the love wagon. I guess I don't ever have to really like him because he's really dead. So they brought him back, but he died long ago. So I guess whatever we have now isn't actual Scott. So I can forgive him. Do love my mutants. All right. It's been like, I don't know, when did Rogue One come out? It says 10th anniversary. So, oh my gosh. So 2016 was when Rogue One came out. Okay. All right. So I believe this takes place sometime before the movie. You guys tell me. Because the setting is she has been captured. The inference by what they're talking about is that Saw Gerrera kind of like didn't come back for her or save her. So I don't know if maybe it happens right after the movie, but doesn't she die in the movie? My brain hurts right now. Can you guys remind me what happens to this girl in this movie? I feel like somebody dies in one of the Star Wars standalones. But anyway, this one has her being captured by, I believe it's the Empire, and is in a work camp. And it's kind of interesting the way that the storyline's told is that like she's trying to keep her head down. She's supposed to be there for 23,000 days or something. Oh, she and Saw die. Okay. So maybe this happens before those parts. Maybe there's like this happens, she escapes maybe at some other point from this prison, and then the parts of Rogue One happen that we saw in the movie. But she is trying to keep her head down. She's she's always using a pickaxe and breaking up rocks like you would on a regular prison gang. And I didn't realize, but she actually doesn't want anybody to know who she is, because I guess she is the daughter of a famous scientist. And if people knew that, then it would be real bad for her. But one of the other prisoners recognizes her as one of her aliases and approaches her and says, "Hey, we're going to try to make a break for it." She's like, "I don't want to make a break for it. I'm just going to live out the rest of my life here breaking rocks. Don't talk to me." So this story is what happens in the interim, all that part. Like, do they try to make a break for it? Who's involved? She's one of the characters that Mon Mothma says died to give them a crucial information. Is she a Bothan? I didn't know she was a Bothan. That makes all kinds of sense now. I love Mon Mothma, baby. Mon Mothma is my girl. She's the one that I identify with most. People are like, which Star Wars character are you? I'm like, I'm Mon Mothma. she's just trying to get everyone to do their parts. She's supposed to, like try to keep the peace. She's doing the stuff behind the scenes. Should call him Redhead. I guess I'm not very calm anyway. All right, so that is what that book is about. This next one is kind of an interesting bit. Perfect for real big fans of J. Scott Campbell. It actually has like 4 pages, I think, of interview with him about his early days at Image and how he got discovered and his process a little bit. And it's really, that stuff's very awesome. I loved being able to read that. But then it kind of turns into a discussion about that he was going to be able to do all these, special covers for Marvel. So it talks about each one of them, that he knew that they knew enough about him that he needed, like he was definitely going to be doing 3 characters that he loves doing all the time, and then all the rest of them once they came to him later. So it's neat because it has like full pages or double page spread images of all those covers. So if you are an uber collector of J. Scott Campbell, this is mostly a collection of his covers for Marvel, including that gorgeous Mary Jane up there that's like everyone recognizes right away, and some cool information. So it is not an actual comic book in the traditional sense. Steal the blueprints for the first Death Star. Aha. That's okay. It's been 10 years. We've all gotten older. So I kind of wish that this book came with like tear out pages, so you could tear them out and like post them on your wall, because that would be cool. But it doesn't. Oh my gosh, this is so stinking cute. All right. For people that play the game Rivals, you know all about Jeff the land shark. But even if you don't, it does not matter. Jeff is a land shark, which means that he is a shark, but also has cute little paws like a kitty cat. And he does not talk, as so far as talking would be. So all of his books are really his adventures, but with no words. There's sounds a lot, and sometimes there have been a couple of his books where other characters have talked. But this one has, I don't think, any talking characters. This is an adventure at the carnival, and it has a bunch of different chapters in it, but it is all one big long story. It's about him. First part of the story is about him wanting to have this gigantic lollipop. It's kind of on the cover there. So he wants to win it, and that's part of like the first part of the struggle he has. And then this interesting looking pink octopus creature shows up, and then it's about how they get along or don't get along, and how he gets his name and other really cute, adorable stuff. Jeff is a perfect book to just enjoy as an adult. Totally understand it and love it. But it's also perfect to just hand off to kiddos to encourage them to want to maybe read. So maybe there's no words in this book, but maybe it'll teach them a little bit about sequential art, how to follow images on a page to be able to suss out what a story is, which is great. This summer, I've had so many parents come into the store that I've got to really talk to a little bit more in depth about. I actually talked to one parent who had been of the opinion that graphic novels, kids' books that are graphic novels, were not real reading, and so they would tell their kids they couldn't pick them. And so I kind of like told them the same thing I tell a lot of parents. And I was like, yes, there are less words in a book that is a graphic novel, but here's the thing. They've done a lot of research. I think it's the American Library Association has done research on word counts and complexities of words in books. And they say that for graphic novels, the level of reading in them, the more complex words are more likely in the, like when you're talking about when you're comparing apples to apples for like this book is kind of aimed at this age kid, that you end up with more hard words in graphic novels than you do in regular kids' books. And that's because they can use bigger words because you have a little bit of a cue on the page as to what they're talking about. So you get to like learn things out of context. And then also, I always tell parents that it's a really good way to get your kids into reading. So if you tell them that this kind of reading is bad, but they're bored with just word books, you're never going to get them over that hump. So use this as like the carrot dangle to get them started reading, and eventually they will totally, step up your vocab. And then also for kids that have reading difficulties, like there are a bunch of different reading complexities that are hard. Putting them in a word balloon kind of breaks things down in a page in a way that helps people read better. So anyway, lots of cool things about them. So anyway, this is a lot to say. There's no words in this book, but you will love it. It'll make you feel really happy. Okay, so I think last week, I think this is a weekly book. Maybe I could be wrong. In Amazing Spider-Man number 29, we got introduced to this character called the Spore. So what we find out, so like to get you all ramped up again, remember, Ben Reilly took over for Peter Parker while he was gone. Ben Reilly didn't do a good job of interpersonal relationships, including making an enemy kind of one of his good friends, who ends up being the Spore because of reasons. So this is the storyline moving forward from that. We saw the Spore kind of like emerge last week, and his ability is kind of like, I don't want to call it mind control. Just think about he can influence what you see, hear, and all those kinds of things, which is pretty scary power. And then I'm going to see, is they introduce any of their characters in this? I've forgotten. Let's look. Yeah, it feels like the abilities that are introduced here are kind of different than I thought they were going to be. And I don't know if you remember this from the Torment storyline. What Peter finds out is that he actually has a cousin that he was unaware of. Now, this is what's cool about this. Is you're going to find out in this book, this is like the mind-blowing part about it. Since it's a cousin that no one knows about, there are some kind of like things that might be discussed about when babies were had and by whom that might kind of be uncomfortable. So how this person is related to the family is very interesting. I don't know what it's going to mean to the future. It's not who I thought it was going to be for sure. It reminds me of a story that someone that I know. Do you know those like the 23andMe things where you can send in your blood and then they say, okay, we're going to search the genetic code and see if there's anybody related to you on the planet that has actually done the 23andMe. And then some people have surprise relatives. They're like, oh, oops, somebody wasn't as true as we thought they were. Which, man, I never want to know that stuff. Forget that. But there's one of those kind of feeling moments in here. So just know. It'll feel like real life. Hey, TSM. Okay. Oh, that's Tracy. Hi, Tracy. Okay. Supergirl survived. This is really cool. I don't know if this is supposed to be the actual story of Kara and how she left the planet, but it feels like it. You get to definitely see her as a young one. You get to see her meet Cal. You get to see the parents. You get to see what the stakes are, like what is happening to the planet. And you get to see them put Kara and Cal in. Oh, it does say Elseworlds. Dadgummit! So you can't trust it for being accurate, but it doesn't matter. It's very delightful. Because I don't remember how the comic books ever really explained her coming off of Krypton when he was supposed to be the only one that survives. But this one has a cool explanation for how they might have left together but gotten separated. So this is cool book for maybe somebody that wants to learn a little bit more about Supergirl, but doesn't care if it's 100% accurate to the old school explanation of it. But maybe, I don't know how they're going to do it in the movies. Maybe this is their way of saying you might have a different origin story for how she left the planet and who else might have been involved here. So it is, I thought it was, I was trying to remember who wrote this. Oh, this is Ethan S. Parker, which I don't know, but it's really good. All right. Next book. Okay. I read a DC Pride, I think it was DC Pride last week, and that one felt a little more clunky. This one just feels like a regular storyline. Just a regular storyline. But there is something going on here. So what happens is you start out on Themyscira, and there are characters there that you're probably going to say, I don't remember those characters being there or being raised on there. And so it has like a bunch of like how these characters are, like their interrelational stuff, but they're not any of the Amazon you remember at all. And then Trevor comes out of the sky and falls down, and he's spicy as all get out. But then it puts they're starting to think in their minds, like, wait a minute, isn't that guy dead? This doesn't make any sense to us. And then there is another kind of like place change. And then when they're in that place, everything kind of feels like not quite right. Not quite right. So this is less about relationship things. Like, sometimes the stories will feel very, I don't know, force is kind of mean, but like there's no like bigger storyline. This one feels like there's a big storyline that just happens to have some characters that fit in with a Pride month, which I'm about the story, man. I want to care about these characters. I want to care about them a lot, and I do here. So this one focuses in on Dreamer and Galaxy, which I don't ever remember anything about these guys. They must be part of the extra group from Justice League. And there's also a Batwoman story by Rucka, but it's like a follow-up story, and I didn't get to read that part. But this one is really great. So if you're looking for something really awesome to read, I think that it all ties into the main storyline that's going on right now. But since I'm not reading all of the Justice League stuff, I'm not 100% sure where it fits in, but it's awesome. I like it when you're like, your brain go like, what? Oh, this next one. Okay. W. Maxwell Prince. You know him because he does an amazing job on Ice Cream Man. But this is not Ice Cream Man at all. But it is that same kind of like, you're going to feel very excited about how fresh and cool and new this character feels. And the good news is you don't need to have known anything about Deadman. I mean, you probably can guess by his name that he's not alive. How about that? I think that you can still lean into here. But the storyline it's kind of focused in on this hospital that is for, well, I don't know if the whole hospital is for it, but think about, there's a whole part of it that's for hospice. Yeah, Boston brand, definitely. And it is Boston brand. They didn't change that. Because sometimes, they try to introduce a character as like, this is not that guy. It's just some other guy named Deadman. This is actual Boston brand. But the storyline takes place in the outer Gotham rural hospital, in which the doctor is very interesting that we meet at the beginning of this book, in which he kind of is telling the new nurse that don't ever tell the people that are here or their loved ones that they don't have a hope of surviving, because otherwise the place is without hope. He says it in a different way, but I'm going to take it this way instead of his way, which is like we're just trying to fool them into being not whiny. I like to think of Deadman as a superhero quantum leap. It's less about superheroing in this one. It's more about his personal life. It's so much more what I prefer to get to know and love a character. So he first shows up at this hospital. He knows he's dead. And he spends a little time there doing kind of like, you know how death has a role in the Sandman universe? It kind of shows up in the last minutes of someone's life and helps them across. That's what he's doing here. He's showing up and making sure his job is kind of more making sure that someone doesn't go if it's not their time, no matter how terrible their circumstances, right? Or that they don't stay if they're not supposed to stay. So he helps them across or helps them to go back. And there's some kind of heartbreaking storyline in that regard. But then after that part of the story happens, we actually get to see him go home on the bus, which he acknowledges he doesn't need the bus. He could just pop into someone else's body close to home and be there. But that's not what he does. He takes the bus like an old person. And it's wonderful. In the bus, you get to see him kind of like, since he knows everything about everybody, he knows how many days they've got left or what they're facing and all that kind of stuff. But when he gets home, it's really interesting. He lives in a town that he says has, what did he say, 300 people living in it. And 250 of them are alive. And 50 of them are not, which is a high ratio, he says, for people that are in his position. So it's really interesting to see him with his interaction with other dead beings that are kind of like stuck in loops or are there on purpose or those kinds of things. It's just such a wonderful book, y'all. I cannot explain how much I love this. It's kind of like when the Fury of Firestorm #1 came out. Loved it. This one may be even cooler in my book for, I just like characters that have got lots of damage, so much damage. And the kind of like the background for this character is, you know, like when you talk about like gods and heaven and hell, the cool thing for this is it's more like put into kind of like Indian lore with Indian gods and goddesses. So that's very different and very cool. And there is, in that regard, some demons that show up that you get to see who's controlling them at the end of the book that make things all kinds of wrong, we'll say. All kinds of wrong. Oh my goodness, y'all. Batman. Remember I was talking about last week? I was like, where's the Minotaur? I like the Minotaur. I need some Minotaur. Because that guy's terrifying to me. You get it back. Okay. So the order of operations here is read Batman #8, then read what was the book that came right after it? Focuses on completely different character. Oh, it's the one where Black Canary is in prison. Yep. Is that right? No, Barbara Gordon is in prison. Barbara, sorry. So this is in continuity with that. It happens right after the Barbara Gordon prison book. So the things you need to know is that Vandal Savage is hardcore after Batman. He believes that he's taken him to ground because he's found all. Thank you so much, Jay. He's found all of what he believes are all of the hideouts or the extra places where Batman hides equipment or any of those things. He thinks he's done away with all those things. He thinks he's gotten rid of all of his support system, and by the way of all of the kids and stuff, and kind of taken them out of the picture, right? So he's publicly saying Batman's gone. We've taken care of him, and he's bad and horrible, right? He's getting pretty full of himself. But this one is so wonderfully made in that the storytelling lets you know a little bit at a time just how clever Batman's been and what the plan is. And you get to see a brand new bat signal, which you cannot see coming. It is so cool, y'all. What else about this one? Yeah, that's mostly the play for this book. To see, that smartness that we see in the absolute Batman, in which he already is like 5 steps ahead. You just don't know it. Everything always looks so bad for him. But he totally knows what he's doing and what's coming up next. And what else? Is there anything else? No. That's the gist of it. If I told you any more, it wouldn't be fun to read the book anymore. But yeah, how in the world does Matt Fraction keep ramping it up? And Jimenez has got amazing art in every single issue. Each page is like frameable awesomeness. That whole team, man, I'm telling you, the best. All right, this is the book this week that I did not expect to have any kind of love for or interest in, but I was going to read it anyway just because. This is Gail Simone, so I should have known. I should have known that was going to be amazing. This is called The Ring, the man who beat the man. And that term, the man who beat the man, they're actually going to tell you what that means in this book to this character. So it follows a bunch of different people, including a boxer who is at the top of his game and finds himself kind of starts it with what boxing looked like in prehistory. But this main character has kind of lived a really good life of doing a great job at boxing, but just ends up against someone who's younger and faster and better than him. And so he kind of like goes off into obscurity, also known as drinking hard. Did not write about Ric Flair. No. So that is the one character. And there's something wonderful that happens in his life to get him back out of that just like washed up previous boxer, right? But then there's this other storyline about a boxing reporter who he is kind of, I don't want to call it saddled, but it looks like he didn't arrange for it. So I don't know if his bosses arranged for it. This young lady who is an influencer, for lack of a better term. She has millions and millions of followers. And she doesn't know anything about boxing, but she gets thrown into the world and she's totally about learning the ropes. She's like, just teach me what to do. And she has very interesting kind of ways to stir the pot to get a lot of people to interact with whatever she posts. And so this is a little bit about the old grizzled reporter he doesn't really understand what she's doing ever. He only knows that he would never want her on his bad side or to be on her bad side because she could tear her up, or she could tear him up just on the interwebs. And then it kind of looks like this. There's a boxer that kind of will remind you a little bit of the big Russian from Rocky. I don't remember that guy's name, but it'll remind you a little bit of that. So the book kind of gets you. Oh, thank you, Drago. That's what I was thinking of. The book gets you back around to the fact that she's going to do something that brings the character that you meet at the beginning of the book back into focus. So it'll feel like two stories that are not connected until you get all the way around to the end and you'll totally get it. So this is my challenge to you. If you're not a sports person, you don't like reading books about sports, you don't like Dark Horse. I don't know what things I could put out there that might hold you away from this book. I challenge you to buy this book and read it, because I can very nearly guarantee you that you will like it, despite the fact that it might not ever be any of your normal genre. It will feel like books that you do love. If you know me at all and what I usually recommend to you, I would never recommend something that I didn't think had legs and was very interesting. Pablo Drive-By! Jay says, I love everything sports related, movies, comics, books, shows, but not actual sports. It's okay. Pretend like this book has nothing to do with sports, but everything to do with people. Right? People. All right, I know we're gonna finish early in the books category, but this is the one I was the most excited to talk to you about, because Zach Kaplan has been a friend of mine for a good long time. He's come to the store and signed at the store. Of course, he came to the store like 5 years after I asked him. He was in the middle of starting his family whenever I asked him the first time. So he tends to write books in threes. And by that, I mean that he'll have 3 series going on at the same time, and then you won't hear from him for a little while. And then he'll announce 3 series. This is one of the set of 3 that you're going to see soon. This is the lead out. One of them is a third part of a book that's already running. So Kill All Immortals is going to have a 3rd series. Right now it's still finishing up its 2nd series. So if you love that series, just keep yourself signed up. And then there's one other one. I should have brought my little flyer to tell you which one it is. I'm so sorry. But this one is very interesting. For fans of zombie tales, although these are not zombies, or a weird vampire. So think of zombies and weird vampires, monsters. If you mix those guys all together and put it in kind of like a post-apocalyptic setting, this is what you're going to get. So the storyline rolls out really interestingly, in which it describes that this disease or whatever it is, they can't figure it out, happened so fast that there really wasn't any time for anyone to do experiments or figure it out in any kind of real way before most everyone that could do that kind of work was gone. So, and they don't describe in this first book at all how it actually transmits between people. But here's the crazy weird stuff about it. Well, we do know, was it Masterminds? The other one? Nope. He's finishing up Masterminds. It's a totally different book from there. But this one, there's this weird idea that you can become like these weird creatures, because what happens is people's skin kind of turns yellow and bubbles up and then starts making like things kind of start sticking out of it and stuff. But the thing that's interesting is that there's some people that's as far as it goes. There's other people that become these like mindless beasts that are like would chew on you if they could. And then there's people that have figured out how to avoid all of that. But the big twist that happens at the end of this book is really, really cool, because there's 2 things also they find out. One is that there is a weird thing that they figured out to do, or at least they think works, to be able to stop the growths and or prevent the growths, but they just don't, like, they're still in the process of trying to figure out what the mechanics of it are. But the thing that they have to do is so disgusting and means more carnage. This is mostly about the human condition and how desperate people might get in order to just survive or protect their loved ones. is there any hope that people might work cooperatively to avoid everyone dying? But I think at its core is a little bit saying about like the way we kind of turned on each other a little bit during the pandemic, where people were like, not my body, my whatever. And, you know, they're like kind of like the divided camps there. I feel like that's a little bit of what is being kind of like, we as humans tend to default to being less like together minded about how to conquer something, which we shouldn't. We should all be thinking about the common good, but it's really hard, right? You want to make sure your family stays safe. You're going to first protect the people closest to you, your kids, if you have kids, your spouses. So it's hard to like say, or we give all of that up for the common good. So just like The Walking Dead becomes less about the zombies, way less about the zombies, this feels like it's about the human drama about it. But because of the way that this thing works, those things are going to start to be inextricably, nope, can't say it. They will not be able to be removed from each other as items. Nope. It doesn't feel like it's alien parasites. They don't really know where it comes from. Savager 3. That's a good one. So anyway, this is a great series. I love the beginning of it. I can't wait to see what they're going to do. This is your reminder. So I wish natural selection didn't take so long. All right. So for a long, long time, you could not get Batman 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope, 6. Like I have tons of number 7 and 8 on my rack, right? Because by that time we realized that, oh no, this book is not only good, it's an amazing amount of good. So here's your opportunity to be able to read 1 through 6 without having to try to hunt it down in a crazy fashion. This is Matt Fraction's Batman. So they are putting it out in 2 different forms. You got the soft and the hard covers for that book coming out this week. And then, we've got some cool compact comics. This is Superman Red Sun, which is a great telling a tale like what would happen if Superman landed in Soviet Russia instead of America in the heartland of a farm. It's a very interesting tale. And then for everybody that thinks that they want to have the storyline Brand New Day, even though there's no way of telling if that's the real story they're telling for the movie, even though it's called Brand New Day. We know that what we got for Daredevil Born Again is not Born Again. It ended up being Zdarsky's run of books. So, but anyway, it's a good story to read, and it's much easier to read in this form because the individual books are really hard to put together. There's a lot of them in the run. And then if you love your Spider-Man noir, there's a book called Gwen Stacy Affair. Since it's super hard to get the original stuff, this is a 2025 run by Eric Larson. And I think that's all the cool stuff. Oh, there was something that I wanted to... Okay. Jay, did you end up getting the little graphics loaded in? Okay, cool. So... I don't know if everyone's comic book store is going to have this. It's a little bit large, so they might not have it out at your store, but I'm going to make sure that you guys have what you need to know about Blue Lock. So Blue Lock Kodansha, who is the company that makes Blue Lock, started a big promotion last Wednesday. And if you don't know anything about Blue Lock, I'm going to just give you the dumbest little synopsis of the manga. It is about a team that is in search of the best striker. Striker's all that matters for the series, and they're actually looking because of the connection to World Cup that happens in a couple weeks. They're doing a real life search for the best strikers in North America. So if you are a soccer player and you play the position of striker, or you know somebody that's amazing that plays striker, you can scan this little QR code. I would do it anyway, just for fun. And if you want to get attention by Kondansha, if you do hashtag Blue Lock Diamonds on anything, you'll probably get shared. So just know there, if you go and buy from participating comic book stores or bookstores, they have a limited number of, you can kind of see that on there. I've got it taped to it. They've got the cool blue diamond patch, and then a little blind bag of stickers, and they will give you a set of those if you come and buy something from the Blue Lock display, which is also very cool. So if you've never read any manga, you might think about reading this cool soccer-based one. There are also basketball and volleyball-based ones that are really, really cool. Not called Blue Lock, of course, but that all the kids are reading. So I did want to make sure you guys knew about that. I grew up in Texas, and soccer's big here. So if you wanted to grab that QR code, you can definitely enjoy that. And one last thing I want to mention to you guys soon. I mean, I don't know if anyone cares about a little thing called Invincible. Only everybody that bought everything we had in our store. But there is an omnibus that is going to be available very, very soon. It says now, but we don't have ours in this moment. So unless they're upstairs, I don't know about it. But big old omnibus. This is different than the compendium or the hardcover or the library slipcase edition. Different than all of those. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys. I'm giving you enough information. You can get what you need at your local comic shop. Make sure you do connect with them. Give them a call tonight and say, hey, I heard about this book and I wanted to make sure it ended up in my pull box. Just give them a call. They'd love to hear from you. And another reminder that on Fridays, we have a really awesome show, Order Up with Matthias. He takes you through every single book and every single cover that is going to be on the final order cutoff that happens on Monday. So you can order anything and never miss a single book. You just got to take notes or watch it in review. Tell them before Monday, and you will be 100% assured of having a book that you would like. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for popping those things up for me. I appreciate it. And I am going to be popping off and then popping back on and then selling you all these cool things.
So, Miss Jyn, you are very welcome, as always. And don't forget, folks, more Miss Jyn next. A little 2-hour block of Miss Jyn, or the 3-hour block, I should say, continues with Miss Jyn next. After that, at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, had to get my timing right, you'll have Aggressive Positivity.
Yes!
Mad Fawcett Comics. So be sure to check that out. And Paul from, I believe it's AA Comics.
Yeah, I think that he's a permanent fixture now because he showed up for the first one and they're really good together. So they were a lot of fun to listen to. All right, everybody, you got a whole 5-hour block of awesomeness here on the EXP. I hope it's useful. See you guys in just a little bit.